Hi everyone, I hope you all are safe and sound at homes and doing your studies. So dear students, let's come to the next video to learn about personal letters. Already I have shown you some of the images where the personal letters were written. That is of inland letter, postcard and envelope, through which earlier days or now also it is written the personal letters or the letters. Why it is important to know how to write a letter, that we will come to know, or now I am going to explain to you. Nowadays we find we are in electronic media or electronic age, where we send messages, or if we want to contact a person who is far away, we very easily contact them. But earlier days it was not. So when the letters were written, it was a permanence or a permanent thing that would appear in the memory of a person. Because when we write a letter, we give our personal touch. We experience the feelings and we note it down, or we jot it down, or we write it down on the letter. So the reader, one who reads, also involves in your memory experiences and learns or knows about you, and there the relationships builds. Okay, so now we are going to learn how to write a personal letter. So now let me tell you, a letter or letters can be classified into two. One is of the personal letter and another one is of business letter. So when we are writing a business letter or a personal letter, we need to be very careful about how to write it down. There is a proper way where we can write it down, a letter. So according to our writings and the subject matter what we project, accordingly we are given the marks. So it is the demand of the board exam or the 9th class exams language paper, where you will be asked to write a letter. So we need to project ourselves in a proper way so that we may get the proper marks. Okay, so now let's learn how to write a personal letter, or to whom these personal letters are written, or personal letter is written. So mostly when we are writing personal letters, we write to our relatives, our acquaintances, or our nearby friends. We write it down. So why we write down this? We want to express our apologies, we want to congratulate, or something, the postponement has happened, or we want to inquire something, or a thanksgiving. So this way we write down the personal letters. So now let's go to the next step where we can write down in a proper way. Write down a personal letter, we are going to divide it into two parts. The layout and the subject matter. So now let's learn about the layout of a personal letter. So what are we going to do it here? The first thing that we are going to write down is of the address of the writer. Where are we going to write down the address of the writer? That we have to see. So if we are having a blank sheet or a inland letter, or where we can write down a letter, always we have to see the traditional style as well as box style, that is of new style. So in the traditional styles, at the sheet at the left top corner we have to write down the address. And in the box style or box type of letter, we have to write down at the top right corner the address. Okay, and then one more thing that we have to be very uh, careful about it, or we have to be very conscious that whenever we are writing the address, after each line we have to put comma, and the last line we have to put the full stop. Or another way, that is, we don't have to give any punctuation marks. Simply we can write down the line, okay, one after the another. You don't have to expand it into full page. You have to write down in a short, in the corner style. Okay, the next one that we are going to see, what is the important thing that we have to, is the date. Okay, when we are writing, we need to be careful about it, where we have to write down the date. As soon as we have finished writing the address, after the address we have to leave a space, and then we have to write down the date in both the styles. Okay, but there is a particular way of writing the date that we have to be very conscious about it, very careful about it, so that we may not write it down as normal style, where we put the dot dot or we put the slice. No, you don't have to write down in this way. Rather, you have to write down how, that is of suppose example, that is of 38th August, comma 2020 dot. That is the proper way of writing it. Not that you write down 38.6.2020. No, nor slice you have to use it. Okay. Next important thing that we are going to learn is now greeting or salutation. Okay, to whom we are writing, accordingly we have to greet. Accordingly we have to write down the salutation. Okay, now if you are writing near relatives, nearby relatives, like, okay, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your grandma, your friend, how you are going to write down? So, dear mommy, my dear dad, dear aunt, dear grandma, dear Mira, or dear Sujit, whatever that. Okay, in this way you need to write down. The next way, if you are writing to your close friends, how you are going to write down? Those of them are your best friend or your friends. So, dear Sarah or dear Shasa. Okay, and if you are writing to the acquaintances, it means to the bigger person that we are writing that. So, dear Mr. Swami or dear Miss Shah. Okay, so in this way you need to write it down. We are writing the salutation or greeting, we have to put the punctuation mark, comma. Don't forget it, it's an important. Okay, so now next thing that we are going to learn is the opening sentence, how we are going to open or how we are going to start the letter. Okay, that depends upon the subject matter that you are asked to write it down. Okay, so different ways you can begin it according to the subject. That is of, I was delighted to hear of your success, that you are congratulating. Okay, I am very sorry to tell you something that has happened to you and you want to inform to you. Okay, different. Another one, do you know what has happened to? So that was that is surprise that you are giving. So how can I ever thank you for? So you are thanking or thanksgiving type letter that you are writing. One of the most important elements of writing a letter is the body of the letter. Whenever we are writing, we have to be very, very careful about how to write the letter or the body of the letter, because we are confused and we write something or the other matter. What is asked, we are not writing. So we have to write down the body of the letter according to the question what we are asked. And when we are writing, we need to make it into different paragraphs. So always try to make the body of the letter or the matter of the subject into different paragraphs, 2 to 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs. Okay, then next one we are going to see, or what is the important thing that we are going to see, is the concluding sentence. How we are going to conclude after writing the subject matter. What are you going to write down? Okay, so when we are writing to a person who is of your sister or brother, then how you are going to conclude? This will be in a separate line. You don't have to include these sentences or this sentence into other paragraphs. Okay, so give my regards to your parents, or give my regards to my parents, or to parents. Okay, in this way. Or you can say, please remember me to your brother. So in this way you can conclude it in different ways. Depends upon how you are writing it. So already we have seen the ending sentences or closing sentences, how we have written it. So after that we have to write down the subscription or leave taking. So it depends upon in which way you are writing. One is of the traditional style and one is of the box type letter. So if you are writing box type of letter, then you have to write down it in the right side left corner, giving the space. And then if you are writing of the traditional styles of letter, then the greeting or leave taking you have to write down in the left corner after leaving space. After, different ways you can write down, such as yours affectionately, comma, your affectionate daughter, nephew, sister, uncle. In this way you can write down. But after each writing or after each leave taking, you need to put the punctuation mark, comma. Don't forget it. And then now next one we are going to see is the address or superscription. This is where you have to be very careful. If the question is asked to write down about this, then only you have to write it down. That means the address which you are going to write down on the envelope. If you are asked, then only you have to write it down. If you are not asked, you don't write it down. Okay, be careful about. So if you are asked to write down the address on the envelope, then in this way you can write it down. There will be a space where you can write it down this way of. Already we have seen in the body or the subject matter this one. Okay, when we were learning how to write down the personal letter. So here already I have explained to you what is the subject matter. That depends upon the question what is asked to you. Accordingly you need to write it down. Don't go away leaving the matter. Okay, so stick to the matter what you are asked to write it down, and go around it and write it down so that you may not be miscalculated or may not be misunderstood by the one who is evaluating or one who is checking your letter. Okay, and then each styles that we have learned, or each point we have learned, that is important to get the marks, or that is given the proper way of putting it in a proper place. Then only a letter will be complete and it will be a good composition or a good personal letter. We have seen two ways of writing. That is one is of the traditional style of writing the letter, and one is of the box type of letter. So both the types are accepted in the ICSE board. So either or you have to choose and write it in a proper way. Okay,